Farvardin Yast continues with 128. We worship the Farvasha of the holy Ra'akas Ka'esman. We worship the Farvasha of the holy Havare Ka'esman. We worship the Farvasha of the holy Fradat Havarena. We worship the Farvasha of the holy Varadat Havarena. We worship the Farvasha of the holy Va'uru Nema. We worship the Farvasha of the holy Va'uru Saba. We worship the Farvasha of the holy Ukshat Ereta. We worship the Farvasha of the holy Ukshat Nema. We worship the Farvasha of the holy Astvat Ereta. 129 is the only verse in part 28. Whose name will be the victorious Sa'ashant, and whose name will be Astvat Ereta. He will be Sa'ashant, the beneficent one, because he will benefit the whole bodily world. He will be Astvat Ereta, he who makes the bodily creatures rise up, because as a bodily creature and as a living creature, he will stand against the destruction of the bodily creatures to withstand the drug of the two-footed broad, to withstand the evil done by the faithful. So are they saying he said, well, I mean, this is the case too, because he's an incarnate being, but more than an incarnate being and a living being. So, the body's not it, of course. 29, 130 to 138. 130. We worship the Farvasha of the holy Yima, the son of Vivan Glant, the valiant Yima, but it flocks at his wish, to stand against the oppression caused by the Devas, against the drought that destroys pastures, and against death that creeps unseen. 131. We worship the Farvasha of the holy Tha'e Ta'ana of the Afwiya house, to stand against itch, hot fever, humors, cold fever, and incontinency. To stand against the evil done by the serpent, we worship the Farvasha of the holy Ashnara, the son of Pa'oro Gira. We worship the Farvasha of the holy Zava, the son of Tumaspa. We worship the Farvasha of the holy Agra Eratha, the Demaman. We worship the Farvasha of the holy Manus Kithra, the son of Aeryu. 132. We worship the Farvasha of the holy king Kavata. We worship the Farvasha of the holy king Epivanga. We worship the Farvasha of the holy king Usadan. We worship the Farvasha of the holy king Arshan. We worship the Farvasha of the holy king Pisana. We worship the Farvasha of the holy king Yarshan. We worship the Farvasha of the holy king Siavarshan. We worship the Farvasha of the holy king Husrava. For the well-shapen strength, for the victory made by Ahura, for the crushing ascendant, for the righteousness of the law, for the innocence of the law, for the unconquerable power of the law, for the extermination of the enemies at one stroke, and for the vigor of health, for the glory made by Masta, for the health of the body, for a good, virtuous offspring, wise, chief in assemblies, bright and clear-eyed, that frees their father from the pangs of hell, of good intellect, and for that part in the blessed world that fails to wisdom, and to those who do not follow in piety. 135. For a dimension full of splendor, for a long, long life, and for all boons and remedies, to withstand the obtuse and the pa'erikas, the oppressors, the blind, and the deaf, to withstand the evil done by oppressors. 136. You worship the Farvasha of the holy Karasaspa, the Sama, the club-bearer with plaited hair, to withstand the dreadful arm, and the hordes with the wide battle array, and many spears, with the straight spears, with the spears uplifted, bearing the spears of havoc, to withstand the dreadful brigand who works destruction, the manslayer who has no mercy, to withstand the evil done by the brigand. 137. We worship the Favasha of the holy Akrudra, the son of Husrava, to withstand the wicked one that deceives his friend, and the niggard, the stingy, that causes the destruction of the world. Yeah, the word has nothing to do with, if you've left off a letter of that word, but some people might get bent out of shape about that because they don't know what it means, but so that's why I'm saying that. We worship the Favasha of the holy and gallant Shanga, to withstand the Mazza Inya Avas and the Varenya fiends, to withstand the evil done by the Avas. 138. We worship the Favasha of the holy Fardakste, the son of the jar, to withstand the Aeshma, the fiend of the wounding spear, and the Davas that grow through Aeshma, to withstand the evil done by Aeshma. 30 is 139 to 158. Okay. 139. We worship the Favasha of the holy However, we worship the Favasha of the holy Frane. We worship the Favasha of the holy Trete. We worship the Favasha of the holy Paurukista. We worship the Favasha of the holy Hutaasa. We worship the Favasha of the holy Huma. We worship the Favasha of the holy Zaerike. We worship the Favasha of the holy Vispa Taurvasha. We worship the Favasha of the holy Usta Vaete. We worship the Favasha of the holy Tusna Maete. 140. We worship the Favasha of the holy Frane, the wife of Usenema. We worship the Favasha of the holy Frane, the wife of the son of Fra Yazanta. We worship the Favasha of the holy Frane, the wife of the son of Ksho Euraspa. We worship the Favasha of the holy Frane, the wife of Gayadaste. We worship the Favasha of the holy Asabana, the wife of Pauru Dakste. We worship the Favasha of the holy Ukshainte, the wife of Sta Atar Bahistahe Ashyahe. 141. We worship the Favasha of the holy maid Vadut. We worship the Vadut. We worship the Favasha of the holy maid Gangrud. We worship the Favasha of the holy maid Frangad. We worship the Favasha of the holy maid Urudeyant. We worship the Favasha of the holy maid Paesanganu. We worship the Favasha of the holy Havared. We worship the Favasha of the holy Hukithra. We worship the Favasha of the holy Kanuka. We worship the Favasha of the holy maid Srutat Vedre. 142. We worship the Favasha of the holy maid Vangu Vedre. We worship the Favasha of the holy maid Eradat Vedre, who is called Vispa Taurva Ere. She is Vispa Taurva Ere, the all-destroying, because she will bring him forth, who will destroy the malice of the Da'avas and men, to withstand the evil done by the Gahe. 143. We worship the Favashas of the holy men in the Aryan countries. We worship the Favashas of the holy women in the Aryan countries. We worship the Favashas of the holy men in the Turanian countries. We worship the Favashas of the holy women in the Turanian countries. We worship the Favashas of the holy men in the Sa-Erimyan countries. We worship the Favashas of the holy women in the Sa-Erimyan countries. 144. We worship the Favashas of the holy men in the Sa-Ene countries. We worship the Favashas of the holy women in the Sa-Ene countries. We worship the Favashas of the holy men in the Dahe countries. We worship the Favashas of the holy women in the Dahe countries. We worship the Favashas of the holy men in all countries. We worship the Favashas of the holy women in all countries. 145. We worship all the good, awful, beneficent Favashas of the faithful, both from Gaya Maratan down to the victorious Sa'oshant. May the Favashas of the faithful come quickly to us. May they come to our help. 146. They protect us when in distress with manifest assistance, with the assistance of Ahura Mazda and of the holy, powerful Sarasha, with the Mathra Spenta, the all-knowing, who hates the Da'avas with a mighty hate, a friend of Ahura Mazda, whom Zarathustra worshipped so greatly in the material world. 147. May the good waters and the plants and the Farvardin of the faithful abides down here. May ye be rejoiced and well received in this house. Here are the Athravans of the countries, the fire priests, thinking, good holiness, our hands are lifted up for asking help and for offering a sacrifice unto you, O most beneficent Farvardin. 148. We worship the Farvardin of all the holy men and holy women, whose souls are worthy of sacrifice, whose Farvardin are worthy of invocation. We worship the Farvardin of all the holy men and holy women, our sacrifice to whom makes us good in the eyes of Ahura Mazda, of all those who have heard that Zarathustra is the first and best, as the follower of Ahura and as a performer of the law. 149. We worship the spirit, consciousness, perception, soul, and Farvardin of men of the primitive law, of the first who listened to the teaching holy men and holy women, who struggled for holiness. In Arabic we say jihad and fi sabilillah, right? We worship the spirit, conscious, perception, soul, and Farvardin of our next of kin, holy men and holy women, who struggle for holiness. 150. We worship the men of the primitive law, who will be in these houses, boroughs, towns, and countries. We worship the men of the primitive law, who have been in these houses, boroughs, towns, and countries. We worship the men of the primitive law, who are in these houses, boroughs, towns, and countries. 151. We worship the men of the primitive law in all houses, boroughs, towns, and countries, who obtained these houses, and obtained these boroughs, who obtained these towns, who obtained these countries, who obtained holiness, who obtained the Matra, who obtained the blessedness of the soul, who obtained all the perfections of goodness. We worship Zarathustra, the Lord and Master of all the material world, the man of the primitive law, the wisest of all beings, the best ruling of all beings, the brightest of all beings, the most glorious of all beings, the most worthy of sacrifice amongst all beings, the most worthy of prayer among all beings, the most worthy of propitiation among all beings, the most worthy of glorification amongst all beings, created beings, basically, whom we call well-desired and worthy of sacrifice and prayer as much as any being can be in the perfection of his holiness. So, amongst beings that are perfecting. But, these things are upon, the benedictions upon. It's not that, just like this worship, it's respect, it's making mention of, it's thinking of. It's not quite the same thing that we mean here, as it's made clear by verse 149, if anything else. 153. We worship this earth, we worship those heavens, we worship those good things that stand between the earth and the heavens, that are worthy of sacrifice and prayer, and to be worshipped by the faithful men. 154. We worship the souls of the wild beasts and of the tame. We worship the souls of the holy men and women born at any time, whose conscious struggle, or will struggle, or have struggled for the good. 155. We worship the spirit, conscious, perception, soul, and Farvardin of the holy men and holy women, who struggle, will struggle, or have struggled, and teach the law, who have struggled for holiness. Yenhe Hatam, all those beings whom Ahura Mazda, Yath Ahuv Eryo, the will of the Lord is the law of holiness, and that continues, just like, we only shared the first phrase of Yenhe Hatam, 156. The Farvardin of the faithful, awful, and overpowering, awful, victorious, the Farvardin of the men of the primitive law, the Farvardin of the next of kin, may these Farvardin come satisfied in this house. May they walk satisfied through this house. 157. May they, being satisfied, bless this house with the presence of the kind Asha Vangohe. May they leave this house satisfied. May they carry back from here hymns and worship to the Maker, Ahura Mazda and the Meshaspentas. May they not leave this house of us, the worshippers of Mazda, complaining. 158. Yatta Ahuv Eryo. The will of the Lord is the law of holiness. And so on. I bless the sacrifice and prayer and the strength and vigor of the awful overpowering Farvardin of the faithful, of the Farvardin of the men of the primitive law, of the Farvardin of the next of kin. Hashem Bahu, holiness is best of all good, and so on. Give unto that man brightness and glory, and so on. Give him the bright, all-happy, blissful abode of the holy ones. So, before we go into the Farvardin Yast, which I think we'll just leave that for another couple programs, it's important to realize that as we're doing these things, we're not just, the Yasts focus on invocation. But not all of it is invocation like, well, the invocation that you do of God is different from, well, these are authorities that I am mentioning to give me authority. I'm taking their side in one way or the other. It doesn't mean that you're treating them as a god. Some people are going to choose to do that. And we see from certain mention in the Farvardin Yast that certain developments have happened. People call them developments, that Zarathustra's turned out to, made to be the best and the first, and he said no. He said that, just like Muhammad didn't claim to be the founder of the religion. He didn't claim, he abhorred that idea. Zarathustra likewise, didn't like the idea of people starting religions. And so let's get into the notes here. We have 200 to share here. So there's a comparison to horses drawn through the mention of the, the snorting and all that. Their beauty is seen afar. One manuscript says that they're known afar. Another whose eyesight reaches far. All the beneficent powers hidden in the earth, in the waters, and the sun, and which Asha Manguhe imparts to man. And then we're having the Urva en Etis. 8, 8, 9. Oh, okay. The wounding mentioned in verse 33. But see, we're taking sides, not that everything's like somehow a god or something. There, if you don't pay attention, I guess that could be misunderstood. Yasto Zayau is the girded with weapons part. And Vira is the Danus, the going to assail. So what was this over in Germany? The Germans, is that what they're talking about? But it wasn't because they were Germans, right? And then there's Asabana, the wounding with stones, basically. Remember that stuff in the Quran, Satan the stoned. It's the same sort of thing. And, of course, we're having the mention of the chief of creatures, just like we have mention of Zarathustra later on, the chief of creatures. But the people who made it to heaven, in this case, in verse 42, are referred to as the chief of creatures. I mean the heaven of the afterworld. And then we go on to the Sa'aka, the welfare. And Tat Apem is, okay, so the belonging of the waters. There's some doubt, and there's blowing within, because certainly you want internal movement. When you go over these formulas and stuff, you want to bring about stuff in yourself. You want to establish your own character and stuff like this, not just rely on something else, but you want to bring that out, not just bring stuff in. Do your side too. The sixth and the last Gahambar, the Afrigan Gahambar, are the last 10 days of the year, the 10th through 20th of March, including the last, well, I guess the 20th may not be it. It's supposed to end, the first day is supposed to be the equinox day, so including the last 5 days of the last month, Sa, Pen, Darmad, and the 5 complementary days. These last 10 days should be spent in deeds of charity, religious banquets, gasan, and ceremonies in memory of the dead. We're bringing things to memory. We're upholding their legacy and all that sort of stuff. It was also at the approach of the spring that the Romans and the Athenians used to offer annual sacrifices to the dead. The Romans in February, quie tunc extremis anni mensis erat. Sirozahs. The Athenians on the 3rd day of the Anthesterion feast in the same month. The souls of the dead were supposed to partake in the new life, then beginning to circulate throughout the nature that had also been dead during the long months of winter. And, ancestor worship and stuff like this. I'm not recommending ancestor worship, but these 10 nights asking thus, so, people would, just like some people with Halloween, they think that the dead are closer during that time. Frinat, who will pronounce the Afrin? And alms, of course, will be given to the poor Yastians. Asho Dad. Ashonasa, that makes him reach the condition of one of the blessed. Ah Bayi Ar Zanik. The Sanskrit translation has thus to say, that makes him worthy of a great reward. And there's an allusion to the formula from Yasna 23:4. I sacrifice to the Vivasha of my own soul. So definitely you want to have a deep connection with your own self. Somebody who knows how to praise God. Not so explicit in what they call the Zoroastrian tradition. Islam has this idea about knowing your Lord by knowing yourself, and it's a very common thread in the perennial religion. Stahyo Stutikaro is I'm losing my place here a little bit. The prayer worthy of bliss, yeah. And there's different states that you want to reach. Yes, the stations of character and roles in life, you could say. But your brain and body has over 50 chemicals to produce all sorts of highs and all that. So, and I'm not saying with delusion, no, the psychiatric states, the other states, they're good. They're good to combine with things, but. And then there's the part of the Afrigan Dahman, the prayer recited in honor of the dead. The Sanskrit translation of the Afrigan has been published by Bernauf as Etudes Zendes. And that be something to, something to look up in the future. And we have the winter. The winter's before the long place, where the flowing stops, because of the freezing and all that. And there's doubt in regards to this fertility of plants reference. The word is hava rira, which Espen de Arge makes synonymous with hava para, kind, merciful. So keeping the white home, is it white because of mushroom juice, or is it white because they added milk to it? Both things happened, or both things could happen together. They're to keep from the evil, just don't put any there's some, know what you're doing with mushrooms, thank you very much. They're from the evil beings that try to destroy it. Karasaspa lies asleep in the plain of Pesyansae. The glory of heaven stands over him for the purpose that when Azza Dahak becomes unfettered, he may arise and slay him, and a myriad guardian spirits of the righteous are as a protection to him. Zarathustra, went near unto Havov, Havogve, his wife, 3 times, and each time the seed went to the ground. The angel Ner Yo Sang received the brilliance and strength of that seed, delivered it with care to the angel Anahid, and in time will blend it with a mother, a maid, Eradat Fedre, bathing in the lake. Kasava will conceive by that seed and bring forth the Savior Saoshyant with his 2 forerunners. Ukshyat Ereta and Ukshyat Nema will be born in the same way of Srutat Fedre and Vangul Fedre. I don't know if they mean the or bl, or, with the DH, but, and, we're doing our part with the involvement of alms. Rejoicing the faithful, basically. Asna or Azana. That could be the same thing in verse. The perception of verse 74. There seems to be in the paragraph to follow, with verse 75, a distinction of the 5 faculties of the soul: asna, mana, da'ana, irvan, and pravasha. The usual classification, as given in this Yast and in later Parsism Spiegel, is Ahu, spirit of life, Da'ana, consciousness, Ba'odho, perception, Irvan, the soul, Pravasha. And would Pravasha be the spirit, or would it be the, or would Irvan be the spirit, the more living being sort, and then Pravasha? The Pravashas on, I'd have to look at the etymology and all that stuff. The Pravashas on war horses and spear in hand were around the sky, and no passage was found by the evil spirit who rushed back. And that's to say, their names, the names of the waters is what the verse here is saying. Their kinds. And again, let's talk about the names with the plants. It's, their kinds. These things are not just, worshipful formulas to repeat. They're not just prosaic things to just go through. They're formulas. They're full of meaning and purpose, or at least they represent what was even more meaningful and purposeful. The Urva Zista is a proper name of Urva. It's a proper name and the name of the fire in plants, and the heart and the altar. So even, Middle Ages sort of stuff, there was still a lot of this fire, air, earth, and water humor's way of even talking about things that they knew wasn't whatever, but they, it's like they had some idea of like stars and planets that some of it was quite advanced. So why did they still say this is the water star system and a group of stars up here, and this is this, and it wasn't just like, cardinal air, medieval fix, that it wasn't that sort of thing. So of course we're involving the holy world, and of mankind in verse, we're about 100, aren't we? Okay, that of the living man. So the bull, that in a way kind of doesn't sound like it's really a bull when you see that sort of thing. And Gaia Marathon is the first man in mythology, and having established those three classes, his three earthly sons, Esat, Vastra, Rvatat Nara, and Havara Kithra, were the chiefs of the three classes. And we have the same thing in the reference to Noah and his three sons, and the divine orders, the Asha. And I'm going to have to stop here apparently.